So, Brian Windhorst, after Game 5, after the Andrew Wiggins game, went on SVP, which tells you pretty much where he's at as a media member. He's on SVP, and SVP's asking him what Brian thinks about that game. So, heads up to all the Warriors media. Brian Windhorst is kind of a big deal. NBA insider, 2 times New York Times bestselling author, #1 NBA podcast host. So he chimes in. And what he said goes viral. So I want to play it for you because it became the talk of the town in Warriors media, and they freaked out.
Night because Andrew Wiggins, he's not an underdog. He makes $32 million. While the Warriors were down these last couple of years, winning no games, they kept spending money because they've got it. They re-signed Draymond Green. They re-signed Steph Curry. They re-signed Kevon Looney. They kept Andrew Wiggins. And boy, did it show up tonight. Andrew Wiggins, with a supreme moment in his career, he was a throw-in a trade. Other teams would have totally gotten rid of him. They stuck with him. They have a $340 million payroll when you consider taxes. You don't just have to beat the Warriors on the court. You got to beat their checkbook. And nothing away from Andrew Wiggins tonight, but this was a checkbook win for the Warriors.
Checkbook win for the Warriors. I mean, he's not wrong. He said, except for the checkbook win part, which is definitely a little shady. It's a little shady, but everything else he said was completely factual, right? So then KMBR decided to chime in. They're one of 2 local radio stations out of the Bay Area. Let's see what they had to say.
Why in the world would people pay attention to Brian Windhorst? That's the first question. Like, why would anything he says rile people up? It's like...
Pause. This man, Brian Windhorst has I just checked, 812,000 Twitter followers. Let's look at KMBR's Twitter account. The actual station where this man is speaking, Tom Tolbert, former NBA, let's be honest, journeyman, hasn't averaged more than 10 points a game in his entire life as an NBA player. But that has nothing to do with it. 121,000 followers on KMBR. Sir, don't act like what Brian Windhorst says doesn't send ripples around the league. Stop that, please. So then we've got the 95-7 game people in the crew. We also had Steve Berman, Bay Area reporter for The Athletic. He says his post-game podcasts make me feel bad for Zach Lowe for being forced to do them. The constant LeBron mentions, saying Steph wasn't actually hurt in Game 4, spouting owners' talking points about a CBA they agreed to isn't surprising. This isn't a hot take. To say that their deep pockets bought 2 championships with KD isn't even mildly controversial. They are $200 million into the luxury tax. $200 million, folks. So 95-7 the game, which the Morning Roast has a little beef with me. He spouted on Twitter about me being some hot take artist that shits or craps or whatever on Warriors. That's not even true. It's him, though, that I have a problem with. So they have Brian Windhorst on, and I went just accidentally on the 95-7 The Game app at around 10 in the morning, and this is what they had to say.
Like, I hear you on, like, the checkbook stuff, but aren't they the model of how to run your business? Not only did they pay all of these, different contracts from within, they also built a stadium with their own dollar and reinvested it back into the team. To me, they should be lauded as what every owner should be doing right now in sports, not just in the NBA. This is how you should run your business, trying to compete at the highest level. I don't know why that's a negative.
Well, first off, I don't know why you're implying what I said was a negative. Why are you implying what I said was a negative? I was giving the Warriors a compliment.
Okay.
For
he didn't believe
being
him.
able to stick
They're
with
so thin-skinned defensive.
Through their rebuild, and that's why they have the depth on this team. But I mean, nobody would argue that Bob Myers and his front office have not done a tremendous job and that Joe Lacob and Peter Guber have done a great job in financing the team, but it is not a level playing field.
Well, is it that the fault of the other owners?
By the way, what's that?
Is it that the fault of the other owners because the Warriors are using their resources well within the rule book to spend the money that they have, and they spent it on a lot of homegrown
and no
talent?
one complained last year.
Like Dallas, Mark Cuban makes all this money. He doesn't spend it all. That's his fault.
I don't understand. I'm still not sure why you guys got your back up.
Because it feels like a backhanded compliment.
Yes.
I mean, a backhanded statement because of last year they pay for Kelly Oubre, and nobody was complaining when they're paying $35 million for Clay to not play a dribble.
Please stop it. Yes, Brian, if you're sensing hostility coming your direction, you are. If you're sensing with your little spidey senses that their hackles are up and they're waiting to strike like a little viper on you, and that they're not going to shit talk you behind your back as soon as you're off the phone, you are correct. You are correct. This is why. This right here, I look for examples in real time for folks to know why it's hard. Why it's hard for me to love and adore one of the best teams assembled, one of the best franchises run, all that. One of the most likable teams. This is why. Because Bay Area reporters, Bay Area media people are like this. They have the thinnest skins I've ever seen. Accusing Windhorst of being an irrelevant hot take artist just makes y'all look like low-budget fanboys with microphones and fucking credentials. Listen, don't pretend then to have a station that really, quote-unquote, covers the team. Don't. They're thin-skinned with their hackles up because one national media member said something that was 100% true and not even a tad controversial because it makes them defensive about why they won and why they continue to win. If you were to add Kevin Durant to the Boston Celtics right now, would Warriors fans be whining? Yes. They would be whining because Kevin Durant to any team makes things unfair when you already have a stacked roster that can get to the finals. And that would still be less than the Warriors are paying right fucking now. I bet you Dubs Media would be, they can't spend that much. Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga are a downstream effect. Let me just say this very, very clearly. You have, without outspending and finding a way in 2016 to sign Kevin Durant with that little tiny gap of period of time where Steph hadn't been signed yet, Clay hadn't been re-signed yet, and you signed KD, without that moment in time, you don't have Andrew Wiggins. You don't have Jonathan Kuminga. You overpaying for KD is how you got to this place. So it is a checkbook win. Let's be honest. People, that's what they try to say. Oh, we've organically built. The only players that we've quote-unquote paid for are Bjelica and Chris Chiozza and somebody else that's not relevant to the scenario. J Scrubs of the world. The argument is that they've developed all of their talent internally and organically, but the Wiggins trade didn't happen without KD. That's savvy tactician work. How'd they get Wiggins? They signed KD in free agency. Checkbook move. Then he decided to leave. They wouldn't let him leave for nothing, so they went and got D'Lo for no reason. At the time, it felt like. But no, they wanted to make sure they had a chess piece on their board because if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So then you do a sign and trade to get D'Lo, and then you flip D'Lo for a pick in Andrew Wiggins. Stop. How is that internal growth? How? Wiggins makes $32 million a year, y'all. 32 year. Add that to Steph, 46. Clay, 38. Dre, 24. That's $140 million for 4 players. That's more than the entire 15-man Celtics roster, $132 million, between 4 guys. The NBA salary cap is $122 million. What is wrong with you? How do you not see this? You're $18 million in the luxury tax with 11 more players left to sign. How is that internal growth? How is that organic? James Wiseman makes $10 million a year, and he hasn't done a goddamn thing, and I don't know how long. He hasn't seen the court once this season. He got shut down at the end of last season. Are you really trying to tell me that deep pockets haven't impacted this series? Really? Really? You're trying to tell me we just find and attract the best talent, which is why we're the best. Stop that! $465 million. $465 million with the repeater tax. That is what Golden State is paying. Nearly $500 million. The Celtics, with their luxury tax hit, $134 million. Do you see what is so clear as day? That's not a knock. That's not a dig. They just outspent. That's what they did. Kevin Durant was the outspend. Everything that comes from Kevin Durant is the same fucking thing. Write it down again. And trust me, this is not a shot at Warriors ownership at all. I understand. Brilliant move. Joe Lacob, Bob Myers. Brilliant guys. How can I say that they didn't do what they were supposed to do? Nobody thought Wiggins was any good. You can outspend other people and it be bad decisions. Plenty of teams outspend and it's bad. Plenty. But they outspent and got a place and a player that they knew could fit in to what they wanted to do in their system. I respect it. I think every team possible should do it. But don't be so disingenuous to say that you're light years ahead of everyone else. It's like that rich-ass kid with parents that are rich that has an awesome job and they've gotten up to this place where they're the CEO of a company. But it's like, yo, how did you get here? You started on third. Stop it. Stop it. There's no way Andrew Wiggins gets to this roster without you having a lot of money. That's it. That's all we can say. Not a chance that you can make the trade work to get Andrew Wiggins without having D'Lo's salary and him being overly paid. Overpaying somebody that you can get to trade for another overpaid person, that's the only way that you get that done. There are Warriors media that I love. We had him on Monday, John Dickinson. Love him. You know what he told me? He said, between me, you, and the lamppost, he's disgusted by this shit too. He is. It's disgusting. It's gross. This is absolutely baffling. You guys are awful. And don't let me get excited enough to start putting my name in the hat to cover the Warriors. Don't make me head out to the Bay, because I'm getting close. I'm getting close. Don't make me take your job. Don't make me take your job. I love Kendra Andrews. I love the Light Years guys. But this low rent fanboy shit has got to go. Gotta go, folks. Please.